second pharyngeal arch. They develop from the mesoderm of the second pharyngeal arch, and that's why the nerve supply of the face, the nerve supply of the muscles of facial expression is facial nerve. Okay, this facial nerve, it emerges through a foramen from the cranial cavity that is called stylomastoid foramen, and after winding down the styloid process, it enters in the face, it enters the parotid gland. Okay, now this facial nerve lies inside the substance. It lies inside the substance of parotid gland. Okay, and inside the substance of parotid gland, this nerve divides into its 5 terminal branches. The terminal branches are marginal mandibular and cervical branch. Okay, the temporal branches, they supply the muscle of scalp, that is the occipitofrontalis muscle, upper part of orbicularis oculi muscle, and the corrugator supercilii muscle. Then the zygomatic branch, all these branches emerge from the anterior border of parotid gland. Okay, the zygomatic branch, this branch supplies the lower part of orbicularis oculi muscle. Then the buccal branch. This buccal branch supplies the buccinator muscle, the muscles of the upper lip, and the muscles present around the nose. Okay, so the muscles present around the nose, the muscles of the upper lip, and the buccinator muscle itself are supplied by the buccal branch of facial nerve. This marginal mandibular branch, the 4th branch of facial nerve, this supplies the muscles present around the lower lip. Cervical branch of facial nerve, as you have seen in the previous lecture, in the earlier lecture, it crosses the mandible and it supplies the platysma muscle, which is a subcutaneous muscle. And you could, this is the method to memorize the 5 branches. They form the pes anserinus onto the face. These are all the muscles of the face in the frontal view. You don't need to mug up all the details of all the muscles. You just need to memorize the function of each and every muscle. Rest, you should know about orbicularis oculi muscle in detail. Second, orbicularis oris muscle in detail, and buccinator muscle in detail. Okay, so you should know about orbicularis oculi muscle, buccinator muscle, and orbicularis oris muscle in detail, that is their origin, insertion along with their function. Whereas in rest of the muscles, you can omit the origin, insertion, and the other details, and simply you have to remember the function of that particular muscle. Now, a very important thing, a very important clinical entity, that is the Bell's palsy. Bell's palsy. What is Bell's palsy? Bell's palsy is, by definition, it is acute onset, unilateral. It is always unilateral, a lower motor neuron type. Okay, just remember that it is a lower motor neuron type. What is lower motor neuron and what is upper motor neuron? This we will deal with in our neuroanatomy sections. Here you should memorize that the Bell's palsy is an acute onset, unilateral, lower motor neuron type of facial nerve palsy. In Bell's palsy, the facial nerve is usually injured or irritated after it exits the cranial cavity through the stylomastoid foramen. Its etiology could be viral or it could be idiopathic. That is, the reason of Bell's palsy is not known. It just happens. Or the etiology is viral. What are the presenting features of Bell's palsy? And what is the anatomical basis of those clinical features? Look, This is the right side of face is normal, which is not shown here. And on the left side, the person has the person in this figure, he has left-sided Bell's palsy. So what are the features and why these features are present? First is facial asymmetry. There is facial asymmetry. Facial asymmetry, why facial asymmetry is there? Because of the unopposed action of muscles of normal side, the paralyzed muscle of other side are pulled towards the normal side. Therefore, facial asymmetry happens, which is due to unopposed action of muscles of normal side. Like here, the left-sided facial palsy is there. So the muscles of the right side is functioning normally. Therefore, the muscles, the skin or the muscles of the left side, they are pulled towards the right side, leading to facial asymmetry. Then there is loss of horizontal wrinkles on the forehead because of the paralysis of occipitofrontalis muscle, the frontalis belly of occipitofrontalis muscle. Then there is widening of palpebral fissure and the patient is unable to close his eye. If you ask the patient to shut his eye tightly, he will not be able to do so because of the paralysis of orbicularis oculi muscle. And because the person is not able to close his eye properly, even during sleeping, what will happen? It will lead to the tears present in the eye. They will not be able to drain properly and they will accumulate inside the eye and they will roll down in the form of tears, which is called epiphora. So they will be unable to close the eyes along with excessive tearing or epiphora due to paralysis of orbicularis oculi muscle. Then there will be sagging of the angle of mouth. When you ask the person to smile, when you ask the person to laugh, the person will not be able to do so. His angle of mouth will sag downwards towards the paralyzed side because of the fold of skin which is present from the lateral side of nose to the angle of mouth. This furrow is not there because of the paralysis of levator, labii, superioris, iliac, nasi. Then there is accumulation of food into the vestibule of mouth. When the person chews the food, his food accumulates in the vestibule of mouth because of the paralysis of buccinator muscle. And because the person to apply, there will be accumulation of food into the vestibule of the mandibular division. And you can appreciate here one thing, that the area of distribution is not in a straight line. It is in a curved manner and going upwards and backwards. Why it's like this? Because during development of brain, the brain develops in this manner. Development of brain takes place in this manner, and therefore these distributions are not in a linear manner but in a curvilinear fashion. And this area of skin over the angle of mandible, this is not supplied by trigeminal nerve, but this is supplied by great auricular nerve, root value C2, C3. Okay. Now, so the ophthalmic division of trigeminal nerve gives several branches here. What are the branches? The branches are supraorbital and supratrochlear nerve, infratrochlear nerve, lacrimal nerve, external nasal nerve. So ophthalmic nerve gives 4 sensory branches in the face, which are supraorbital and supratrochlear nerve, infratrochlear nerve, lacrimal nerve, external nasal. So these I have underlined these nerves. These are the 4 branches of ophthalmic division of trigeminal nerve. The ophthalmic division of trigeminal nerve will supply the area around the skin over the forehead. Then the upper eyelids, medial side of nose, and the side of nose up to the tip. Okay, so the supra one nerve is not shown here, which is the lacrimal nerve. Okay, lacrimal nerve is not shown here. So another one branch. Okay, lacrimal nerve is not shown in the picture. So we have 5 branches. Out of these, 4 branches are seen here. One by one, we will see the area of their distribution. The lacrimal nerve will supply the lateral part of the upper eyelid along with the conjunctiva. The supraorbital nerve. Supraorbital nerve will emerge into the face, will come to the face or will appear into the face after passing the supraorbital margin at the supraorbital notch. And then it will supply the area of the forehead. Okay. Supratrochlear nerve, medial, just medial to supraorbital nerve. It will also emerge from the supraorbital margin, medial to the supraorbital nerve, and it will supply the medial part of the forehead along with the medial side of the nose. Then the infratrochlear nerve. This infratrochlear nerve is going to supply the medial side of the nose. It will supply the medial part of the nose. The supratrochlear and supraorbital will also supply the upper eyelid along with the forehead. The external nasal nerve, it reaches the face after passing between the nasal bone and the nasal cartilage. Okay, after reaching the face, it will supply the external nose up to the tip of the nose. It will supply the external nose up to the tip of the nose. So this is the distribution of ophthalmic nerve, which is going to supply the forehead, upper eyelids, nose, dorsum of nose, tip of nose, side of nose, and okay, that's it. Nerve are seen in the face. All are sensory branches: zygomatico-temporal nerve, zygomatico-facial nerve, and infraorbital nerve. So distribution here, you can see the underlying nerves, which are the branches of maxillary nerve, zygomatico. First about the infraorbital nerve. This infraorbital nerve will emerge into the face through the infraorbital foramen, and then it will supply the lower eyelid, cheek, side of the nose, and the upper lip. Okay, this infraorbital nerve will emerge through the infraorbital foramen. It will divide into multiple branches, and it is going to supply the lower eyelid, side of the nose, upper lip, and the cheek region. Second is zygomatico-facial nerve. Zygomatico-facial nerve appears in the face after piercing a foramen present in the zygomatic bone, and it will supply the prominence of the cheek or the malar prominence. It's going to supply the prominence of the cheek. Third branch of maxillary nerve is zygomatico-temporal nerve. Zygomatico-temporal nerve. As the name suggests, zygomatico, it pierces the zygomatic foramen to appear in the temporal fossa, and then from there it supplies the area of the temple region just lateral to the. These are the branches of maxillary artery. Okay. So first about the facial artery. I'm going to omit this slide because I'll show you this in diagram, or we can just go through this. The facial artery in the face. The facial artery arises from the external carotid artery. It is a branch of external carotid artery in the neck at the level of greater cornu of hyoid bone. Then it loops around, then it enters the submandibular region and it loops around the submandibular gland. After that, it winds round the lower border of mandible at the anteroinferior angle of masseter muscle. Masseter is one muscle. If you clench your teeth, you will come across a contracted strap-like thing, that is the masseter muscle. So it, after emerging from the submandibular gland, it winds round the lower border of mandible at the anteroinferior angle of the mandible. Okay, by this way it reaches the face, and then it goes upwards and forwards to a point 1.25 centimeter lateral to the angle of mouth, or you can say just lateral to the modulus. Then after reaching the angle of mouth, it ascends from there along the side of the nose and reaches the medial angle of eye. At the medial angle of eye, this facial artery anastomoses with one artery, dorsal nasal branch of ophthalmic artery, and ends there. This artery ends there. Okay. Now, this is the common carotid artery dividing into external carotid artery and internal carotid artery. Facial artery is given by external carotid artery at the level of greater cornu of hyoid bone. Not shown here. Hyoid is, greater cornu is here. This is hyoid bone. No, this is hyoid bone. So it arises at the greater cornu of hyoid bone. Then it winds round the submandibular gland. This is the submandibular gland. It winds round the submandibular gland in the form of a S. Then it reaches the lower border of mandible at the anteroinferior angle of masseter. Now come to this picture. After this, come to this picture. Here, this is the masseter. Okay, it winds round the submandibular gland, which is behind, not seen here. Then it winds round the lower border of the mandible, just anteroinferior to the masseter muscle. Now it has entered the face, and you could also notice one thing, that it is tortuous. So the facial artery is tortuous in the face. Okay, then it goes upwards in a tortuous manner, reaches the angle of mouth 1.25 centimeter lateral to the angle of mouth. Then it ascends upwards by the side of nose. It goes upwards, and at the medial angle of the eye, it anastomoses with the external dorsal nasal branch of ophthalmic artery, which is not seen here. So this is the course of facial artery, and facial artery is a tortuous artery in the face. Why this artery is tortuous? Because to prevent the kinking of the artery. Or the stretching of the artery, because the muscles, there is excessive movement of the face due to the movement of the jaw, and due to the movement of because of the movement of the muscles of the face, and this facial artery lies onto the face. So to prevent its undue stretching, the artery becomes tortuous in the face. Okay, so as to overcome the trouble associated with the movement of the face, movement of the muscles of the face. So this was the course of facial artery. Now the branches of facial artery in the face. These are the branches of facial artery in the face only. Again, this is the common carotid artery giving external and internal carotid artery, and this is the facial artery. This is the facial artery. Okay, this is the facial artery. So the branches of facial artery are inferior labial artery, which supplies the lower lip, superior labial artery, which supplies the upper lip, lateral nasal artery. This is the lateral nasal branch, which supplies the dorsum and the ala of the nose. As the name suggests, lateral nasal artery, so it will supply the dorsum and the ala of the nose. And there are few muscular branches not seen here, which are unnamed. Few muscular branches are there. So there are 4 branches of facial artery in the face: inferior labial artery, superior labial artery, then lateral nasal artery, and few unnamed muscular branches or simply muscular branches. So one important thing with the facial artery is that this artery is tortuous. Okay. Second important thing with facial artery is that it undergoes a lot of anastomosis. How it undergoes anastomosis? First is these branches of facial artery, the superior labial artery and the inferior labial artery, they anastomose with the arteries, with the similar arteries, with the same named arteries of the opposite side of face. इस तरीके से ये facial artery एक तरफ है, ऐसी दूसरी तरफ भी तो है. तो सुपीरियर लेबियल आर्टरी एक तरफ की, सुपीरियर लेबियल आर्टरी दूसरी तरफ की, दोनों एनास्टोमोस कर लेंगी. इंफीरियर लेबियल आर्टरी जो एक तरफ की है वो दूसरी तरफ की इंफीरियर लेबियल आर्टरी से एनास्टोमोस कर लेंगी. Then second anastomosis is that you have seen that the dorsal nasal artery, this facial artery ends at the medial angle of eye by anastomosing with the dorsal nasal branch of ophthalmic artery. Now you know that facial artery is the branch of external carotid artery, whereas the ophthalmic artery with which it is anastomosing is the branch of internal carotid artery. Ophthalmic artery arises in the orbit and then it gives a branch, dorsal nasal branch, which anastomoses with the facial artery. So facial artery is also a way of anastomosis between the external carotid artery and the internal carotid artery. External carotid artery की facial artery branch हो गई, internal carotid artery की dorsal nasal branch of ophthalmic artery हो गई, and there is an anastomosis between the two. So facial artery is a site of various anastomosis. First is the facial artery. Second, this is the main artery. Therefore, it is also called the chief artery. Second artery is the transverse cervical artery. Okay, sorry, transverse facial artery. Transverse facial artery. This transverse facial artery is a branch of superficial temporal artery. Okay, this superficial temporal artery is one of the terminal branches of external carotid artery. For now, remember that the transverse facial artery is the branch of superficial temporal artery. It runs forward between the zygomatic arch and the parotid duct. It is present between the zygomatic arch and parotid duct, and the buccal branch of facial nerve, that is the motor nerve, is also present, also runs with this transverse facial artery. So facial artery, branch of external carotid artery, transverse cervical artery, branch of superficial temporal artery, and few arteries accompanying the cutaneous nerves, which all are the branches of maxillary artery, supply the face, and face has a profuse blood supply. Now the venous drainage of face. This is very important. Okay, venous drainage of face, very important. The venous drainage of face takes place by way of two veins. One is the facial vein and second is retromandibular vein. One is facial vein and second is retromandibular vein. I'll show you the diagram and then. Okay. This is a schematic diagram showing the venous drainage of the face. Okay. So I told you that venous drainage takes place by way of a facial vein and a retromandibular vein. So first we will just see this diagram. Here you can see that supratrochlear vein and supraorbital vein, they join together. Okay. So supraorbital supratrochlear and supraorbital veins, they join together at the medial angle of eye to form the facial vein. Okay, this facial vein lies behind the facial artery. Facial artery is somewhere here, and this facial vein lies behind the facial artery. It is not tortuous and it is more superficial as compared to the facial artery. Okay. The first thing is facial vein is not tortuous. Second thing is that it lies behind the facial artery, and third is it is more superficial as compared to the facial artery. So how facial vein is formed? It is formed by the supratrochlear, by the joining of supratrochlear and supraorbital vein at the medial angle of the eye. Then it goes downwards and backwards by the side of nose. It follows a straight course. It crosses the base of the mandible, and in the neck region, just stop here. The facial vein has formed. We know that the facial vein has formed. Now, look at this. Here, what is happening? Here lies the parotid gland. Here lies the parotid gland. So, here what happens that the superficial temporal vein and the maxillary vein, the small one, maxillary vein, superficial temporal vein and maxillary vein, they join together to form the retromandibular vein inside the substance of the parotid. So the retromandibular vein, this is formed inside the substance of the parotid. Then as it emerges through the parotid, जैसे ही ये parotid से बाहर आती है, it divides into an anterior division and a posterior division. This retromandibular vein, which is formed by the joining of the superficial temporal vein and maxillary vein. As it emerges through the parotid gland, जैसे ही parotid gland से बाहर आती है, it divides into an anterior division and a posterior division. Now come to this facial vein. This facial vein joins with the anterior division of retromandibular vein. This will form common facial vein. So facial vein joins with the anterior division of retromandibular vein. It will form a common facial vein which will drain into the internal jugular vein. So this is about the facial vein. Now the retromandibular vein, which has divided into anterior and posterior divisions. Anterior division joins with the facial vein and forms common facial vein. What about the posterior division? This posterior division joins with the posterior auricular vein present behind the ear to form the external jugular vein. This external jugular vein pierces the investing layer of deep fascia and drains into the subclavian vein. So this is about the venous drainage of the face. This venous drainage, why this venous drainage is important? Okay, face is drained by facial vein and retromandibular vein. Facial vein joins with the anterior division of retromandibular vein to form common facial vein, drains into internal jugular vein. And this retromandibular vein divides into anterior division, posterior division. Posterior division joins with the posterior auricular vein, forms the external jugular vein, and it will drain into the subclavian vein. Achha, this facial vein, this will be piercing the investing layer of deep fascia. And the facial artery will also pierce the investing layer of deep fascia when it will ascend the base of the mandible to enter the face. It will have to pierce the investing layer of deep fascia. Okay, so this is the venous drainage of face. This is simple. Now, why the venous drainage of face is important? Because this facial vein can communicate with the cavernous sinus. Cavernous sinus is an intracranial dural sinus. Cavernous sinus is a sinus. It is a venous sinus which is formed by the dura, and it is present intracranial. So there are connections between the facial vein and the cavernous sinus by way of there are two means of communication or connection. First one is the facial vein communicates with the cavernous sinus by way of ophthalmic vein. Facial vein communicates with the cavernous sinus by way of superior ophthalmic vein, which goes inside the orbit and then communicates with the cavernous sinus. First connection is this. Second connection is connection or communication is a much better word. Second communication is this facial vein by way of a deep facial vein. This deep facial vein present posterior to the facial vein. This deep facial vein communicates the facial vein with the pterygoid venous plexus. This pterygoid venous plexus then communicates with the cavernous sinus by way of emissary veins. You know about emissary veins? Emissary veins are valvulus veins which communicate or connect the extracranial venous sinuses with the intracranial venous sinuses. So, this facial vein communicates with the pterygoid venous plexus by way of deep facial vein, and this pterygoid venous plexus itself communicates with the cavernous sinus by way of emissary vein. So what happens if these facial veins are valvulus? These are valvulus veins, and because of the excessive movement of the face, if due to any condition, like for example acne, if due to any condition the septic embolus, the infective embolus is formed inside the vein. If the infective embolus is formed inside the vein, then it will, and because the valves are not there in the veins, so the infective embolus by way of these communications can reach the cavernous sinus. Then it can lead to meningitis and cavernous sinus thrombosis. It is a fatal condition, which is a very devastating, serious, life-threatening infection. This is the dangerous area of face. Dangerous area of face involving the nose, the lower part of nose, the area, the upper lip, and the area between the nose and the upper lip. Okay? So upper lip and the lower part of nose and the area between them. अगर यहाँ पे कोई इन्फेक्शन होता है तो यहाँ का वीनस ड्रेनेज क्योंकि फेशियल वेन के थ्रू हो रहा है, तो वो इन्फेक्टिव एम्बुलस फेशियल वेन के अंदर पहुंच जाएगा, और फेशियल वेन क्योंकि कैवर्नस साइनस से कम्युनिकेट कर रही है, इसलिए वो इन्फेक्शन कैवर्नस साइनस में पहुंच जाएगा, एंड इट विल लीड टू कैवर्नस साइनस थ्रोम्बोसिस, व्हिच इज अ लाइफ थ्रेटनिंग इन्फेक्शन. Therefore, the venous drainage of face is important. You are often asked about the venous drainage of face and also the dangerous area of face. Lymphatic drainage of face. The lymphatic drainage is also divided into 3 territories: upper territory, middle territory, and lower territory. Upper territory, somewhere here, like this. Middle territory here, and then a small part is lower territory. So upper territory drains into pre-auricular lymph nodes. Pre-auricular lymph nodes present just in front of auricle, pre-auricular lymph nodes. Middle territory drains into submandibular lymph nodes. Submandibular lymph nodes present in the submandibular region. And lower territory drains into submental lymph nodes present just below the chin. Submental lymph nodes. तो upper territory का मतलब क्या है? कौन-कौन से regions pre-auricular lymph nodes पे जाएंगे? Region of the lateral part of forehead, lateral parts of upper and lower eyelids, and the temple. They will drain into the pre-auricular lymph nodes. Then what about the middle territory? The middle of the forehead, the nose, then cheeks and upper lip, then the uh, most of the part of the lateral part of lower lip and the jaws. They are going to drain into the submandibular lymph nodes. They form the middle territory. And the lower territory is very small, just the middle part of the lower lip and the chin. They drain into the submental lymph nodes. So upper territory is the lateral part of forehead, the lateral part of upper and lower eyelids and the temple region. Then they drain into the preauricular lymph nodes. The lymph goes into the preauricular lymph nodes, lymphatic vessels. Then the middle territory, that is the midline in the middle part of forehead, middle part of nose, most of the cheek region, upper lips, then the lower lips, most of the lower lip, that is the lateral part of lower lips, and the most of the part of lower jaw. It goes into the submandibular lymph nodes. And then lower territory, that is a very small area, the middle part of the lower lip and the chin. It goes into the submental lymph nodes. So this is about the lymphatic drainage of face. So this completes the face. We discussed about the muscles. Then we discussed about the sensory nerves, motor nerve supply of face, along with Bell's palsy, which is very important. Then we discussed about the sensory supply of face, arterial supply of face, and venous drainage of face. Venous drainage of face is again very important, and we also covered the lymphatic drainage of face as well. You don't need to go into the details of the muscles of facial expression, but you should know that you should know the action of these muscles, and you should know about the orbicularis oris, orbicularis oculi, and buccinator muscle in detail. That's it. Thank you. Okay, that's it. We will meet in our next class.